One of my favorite country music groups I've grown up listening to since I was a youngin' was Alabama, and I'm about to bring you the first installment of a special two-part ranking of my favorite songs by this great band. Big D's Entertainment Rankings and Reviews. Greetings, my fellow YouTubers, and welcome to Big D's Entertainment Rankings and Reviews. My name is Doyle, better known to you all as the Big D, with another ranking, and this is the first installment of a special two-part ranking where I pick my favorite songs by one of the greatest country music bands I've loved for years, Alabama. Now, they've been around for many years. They had minor success with their independent albums in the late 70s. It wasn't until maybe about close to the end of 79 when they got a chance to go to RCA Records and release. And in the following year in 1980, I believe they got signed in 79. But anyway, the following year in 1980, they released their major label debut called My Home's in Alabama. Now, I've ranked 25 songs of theirs. This will be singles only, okay? No album cuts, because this is 100% singles. Now, before I go into the ranking, I'm going to give honorable mentions to If I Had You and, of course, My Home's in Alabama. So if you're ready, let's begin. Number 25 is Face to Face. Released as the second single from 1987's Just Us, which was unfortunately the band's worst selling album originally until it finally reached platinum status a few years later. This would be the band's 22nd number one. It featured a little bit of a guest vocal by their label mate, Katie Oslin, who of course was known for a few tunes such as 80's Ladies and, well, a few others. I can't remember too many, but yeah. It's a pretty nice little love song. It's not too bad, though. Number 24 is Touch Me When We're Dancing. Released as the first single from 1986's The Touch, this little number here, let me see here, was originally done by a band called Bama. Which was released in 1979. That song would also later be done by the Carpenters, which eventually became a big hit, and it was also recorded as a duet by country stars Mickey Gilley and Charlie McClain in 1984 for their duet album It Takes Believers. And then of course Alabama, which eventually became a number one song for them. I gotta say it's a good song. I have heard the Carpenters version. It's pretty good too. Number 23 is When We Make Love. Released as the second single from Roll On in 1984, this song became the 13th straight number one for the band. They really were on a roll here, a winning streak here. And I gotta tell you, it's a love ballad. It's still a good song, though. I've listened to that. I mean, my family actually had four Alabama albums: Mountain Music, The Closer You Get, Roll On, and 40-Hour Week. All of those have title tracks, which were all the title tracks for those were singles. We'll see where those songs wind up. Nevertheless, I think that When We Make Love is a pretty nice little love ballad, love song, whatever you want to call it. Number 22 is You've Got the Touch. Released as the second single, only other single from The Touch. This went to number one in the spring of 1987. Anyway, This unfortunately would be their final consecutive chart topper in a string of #1 hits. But I gotta say, this song was absolutely incredible. And this song, which was a ballad done in the band's signature mellow style, it did pretty well, but it unfortunately became their last #1 in a long string of hits, which would come to an end the the later on with the first single from Just Us, Tar Top, which I rarely have heard that song, which the song failed to climb higher than #7, and it wasn't long before they returned to the top with Face to Face later on that same year. Number 21 is Fallen Again. Released as the third and final single from Just Us, this song eventually became a big hit, and of course, this was one of the few songs that was written by a couple of members of the group. Their frontman Randy Owen and their bassist Tay Gentry. Now, eventually, there was a full-length version included exclusively on the CD and digital pressings of Just Us, which clocks at 7 minutes and 41 seconds and closes with a jam session that lasts over 3 minutes before ending with Owen saying, "We quit, man." I've not heard the actual version. I might look into it. Of course, a much shorter version included on the record and cassette pressings of the album runs at its 3 minutes and 58-second limit. The single A was just trimmed down just a little bit to 3 minutes and 33 seconds. But a little differently. But anyway, this the much shorter version from the album and cassette versions later were included on the Greatest Hits Volume 2 album, as well as their #1 collection for the record, which would later get re-released as the Essential Alabama. Number 20 is if you're gonna play in Texas, you gotta have a fill in the band. Okay, released as the third single from Roll On, I'm going to say this song is definitely catchy and what have you. Oh, you know what? I almost forgot. I got one more honorable mention. I forgot about this song. There's a Fire in the Night. That was the final single from Roll On. I forgot about that song, so I do apologize. I do like that song as well. Okay, back to this song. This song is easily a real catchy tune. Anyway, now the full version's 4 minutes and 28 seconds. I'm gonna say this was really a good tune and what have you. Now, however, but it only had a little bit of a fanfare featuring the vocalist of the band, accompanied by just a piano singing a few bars of "The Eyes of Texas." This introduction leads into the single's opening, which suddenly picks up up the tempo to a quick diplometer. But anyway, a second repeat of the refrain, the first part only accompanied by drums before the fill-led bridge leading to the last part of the song was featured. Of course, that version did appear on the Greatest Hits Volume 3 album, but excises the intro but retains the extra refrain. It's still a pretty good, catchy song, and boy, it has a real good dancing sound to dance to. You know what I'm trying to say, I hope. Number 19 is Southern Star. Released as the final single, the fourth single from the album of the same name in 1989. This song is another great tune. And I gotta say, this was a really big success for them. I just feel like Alabama was back on track. Now, the same year this came out, this was also done by by country bad boy David Allan Coe for his album Crazy Day, which came out the same year. It said. But anyway, Southern Star, I think, is another good Alabama classic. Number 18 is She and I. Released as the first of two new songs from Alabama's Greatest Hits album in 1986. The other song on the album was The Fans. Anyway, the song was written by Dave Loggins, who, if I'm not mistaken, might be, but could be, I don't know. Yes, who is actually the second cousin of Kenny Loggins, as a matter of fact. This was actually the only single to be released. I believe The Fans was not released as a single, though, but nevertheless, the song is an up-tempo, rock-tinged song professing marital lust. But I have to say, this song is really good. I've heard this song numerous times in its original version or in the actual single version, which is perfectly fine, what have you. The regular version actually has a false fade out, as a matter of fact, and goes back into the song for just a few more seconds, which that's kind of weird. Nevertheless, She and I do love that song. It's a classic. Number 17 is Take Me Down. Released as the second single from 1982's Mountain Music, this song is another great classic. The songwriters for this were J.P. Pennington and Mark Gray, both of which were members of the country pop band Exile. This was before they even made a real big comeback on the country scene. Now, I have heard its single, which is, well, over a minute less than the actual album version. But even so, I still like both versions, but for different reasons, you know. Now, actually, Exile recorded this just a couple of years before Alabama did. Anyway, the song went on to become the band's 7th number one on the country chart. It did well on pop radio to reaching the top 20, as a matter of fact. Still another good song from them, though. Number 16 is Close Enough to Perfect, also from Mountain Music. This was released as the third and final single. And again, it just kept it going. Written by Carl Chambers, this is a pop-style ballad. Eventually became the band's 8th number one. And what can I say? I really enjoyed that because I heard the first side of Mountain Music a whole lot when I was a youngin'. Yeah, but it's still really good. And actually, let me see if I'm not mistaken. After that, they actually released the holiday theme tune, Christmas in Dixie. I'll give that as a factual honorable mention too. Why not? But anyway, Close Enough to Perfect, it's a good song. Number 15 is Love in the First Degree. Released as the third and final single from 1981's Feels So Right, this song became the band's 5th number one. Written by Jim Hurt and Tim Dubois, who of course would later go on to produce various country artists on Arista Records. This became the band's biggest crossover hit, reaching number 15 on the Billboard Hot 100. Now, of course, like its predecessor single, which is the title track, we'll see where that winds up. The song's pop love ballad style, along with the country rock style of its other songs, became the cornerstone of Alabama's sound throughout the 1980s and 1990s. Today, this song remains one of the band's most popular songs, and I really like it. I get to hear it sometimes on country radio. Number 14 is There's No Way. Released as the first single from 1985's 40 Hour Week, which I did have that album. We'll see where the title track winds up. This song is an ultimate power ballad. Anyway, the song's a love ballad and another example of the pop sound aspect of Alabama's core musical style. I really did love listening to this. It wasn't until I got to hear that song when I found it was them, because I had heard it on the. I think I heard it on the radio one time before I listened to it on the 40-hour week album, because only the title track was the one song I listened to. Nevertheless, I feel like that's a very good song that actually became the band's 16th number one. Let's see. And apparently, this feat allowed the band to tie Sonny James' 14-year-old record for most number one songs in as many consecutive single releases. Which that's really something. There's No Way, it's a good song. Number 13 is The Closer You Get. Released as the second single from the album of the same name in 1983, this is another example of Alabama's country pop rock sound. I have to agree. This was another song that was written by Mark Gray and J.P. Pennington of Exile. However, the song was not immediately recorded by the band. Now, two earlier versions were released singles. First by Exile, which didn't get much attention, and the other was from singer Don King, whose version reached the top 30. Actually, Rhea Coolidge actually recorded the song in 1981 as well. Released her version as a single, but I'd say it didn't do so well. I've been wrong before. Anyway, the song became the band's 10th number one, and it registered enough airplay on top 40 radio stations to reach the top 40. So anyway, now there is a short version, but hey, I've got to hear the actual album version, and once again, it's good to hear it again. I do like the song. Number 12 is Old Flame. Released as the first single from Feels So Right. This is a real good song. It became the band's third number one single. Written by Donnie Lowry and Mac McNally. This song, I think, is just so incredible. It represented the traditional side to the sound of Alabama, what have you, according to an AllMusic reviewer. And, well, there's not much to say, but I gotta say, I like how the chorus goes, there's an old flame burning in your eyes. Yeah, love it. It's a classic. Number 11 is Lay Down on Love. Released as the third and final single from The Closer You Get, this is another great powerhouse ballad in a way. Anyway, it's about divorce, told first from her side, and in the second verse, his side. Now, of course, Randy Owen, the frontman of the group, wrote this song all by himself. And he recalled that the idea for the song came about when, during a performance at a hotel nightclub in Bowling Green, Kentucky, he learned that a group of women were celebrating a friend's divorce with a night out in the town. However, the divorcee was not having a good time because she was mourning the end of her marriage and thinking about what should have been, that she should be at home with her husband. Well, that's completely understandable, you know. But still a good song, though. Now for the top 10. Number 10 is Feel So Right. Released as the second single from the album of the same name. This, of course, became the band's fourth number one, and actually their first multi-week number one. Nah, I'd say it's been, which of course spent more than 1 week on top. Now, there's a slightly early fade on the single version, and that's the only two difference between this and the album version. Anyway, it's a mellow love song with sensuous and somewhat explicit lyrics and a sort of don't think of it as bad words or anything, strong language or anything, okay? Anyway, in a strong country pop style. It was also the band's first crossover hit, reaching number 20 in the Billboard Hot 100. It became their first of five top 10 hits on the AC chart. That, of course, is adult contemporary. Anyway, it remains another one of the band's most popular songs. I have to agree, it's definitely good. Number 9 is Can't Keep a Good Man Down. Released as the third and final single from 40 Hour Week. This is yet another good song, written by Bob Corbin. I will say this became the band's 18th number 1 single. And in as many single releases, extending their streak just at 3 months earlier with the title track of the 40-hour week album. I've got to say, this is another great classic. You can't go wrong with this one if you've not heard it. Number 8 is High Cotton. Well, Cotton. I call it Cotton, but Cotton. Released as the third single from Southern Star, this, I'm going to say, I admit this was a very good tune. Written by Scotty Andrews and Roger Murray. This became yet another big hit. The song is a reminiscence of the youth of the narrator, who explains how his younger days were so good and how he didn't realize how the times would change. If you listen to the lyrics and what have you, yes, I have to admit, I love this song. This is a very good song. I hear this several times on country radio. It's a great classic. And like I said, the lyrics are really good. Number 7 is Song of the South, also from Southern Star. And this was released as the first single from that album. And, well, written by Bob McDill, the song was originally first recorded by Bobby Bare in 1980. And then a year later by Johnny Russell. And then again by Tom T. Hall and Earl Scruggs. But anyway, it wasn't until later on when Alabama did, and it became a big hit. Of course, the song tells the story of a poor southern cotton farm family, during the Great Depression. Yeah, and it references various things, including Franklin Roosevelt, Wall Street. Oh wow, and the TVA, even Chevrolet. That's incredible. I will say this is definitely another great classic of Alabama's. I do love it. Of course, it was released in '88. Nevertheless, a good classic. Number 6 is Roll On, 18-wheeler. Released as the first single from Roll On in 1984, this is a classic. Now, rarely you would hear either versions. There was a single version released in 3 minutes and 42 seconds. But anyway, now, however, on the album, and you might hear the actual full version on the radio. You'll actually hear sound effects of a semi-trailer truck, both the engine starting at the song's end, traveling down the highway. I love how that CB dude comes on. Hey, how about you, Alabama? Roll on! And off we go to the song. Of course, the story of a trucker who drives an over-the-road semi-trailer truck to support his wife and 3 children. I have to say, the lyrics are very good. The song's absolutely amazing. I don't know what else to tell you. Roll On is a great song. Always will bring me back to the good old days of riding in a big truck with my pop, because he was a truck driver. Number 5 is Tennessee River. Released as the third single from My Homes in Alabama, this was the band's first number one song. After reaching the top 20 with the title track, and was written by Randy Owen, their frontman himself, this just proved to be so big. Now, I know the song only runs at 3 minutes and 4 seconds because I never did hear this version, but very soon they did extended versions of this song when they did the song live. And I gotta say, this is just so much of a good song to hear. Yes. But anyway, I really think it's a great song. You can't go wrong with a classic like Tennessee River. Number 4 is 40-Hour Week for a Living. Released as the second single from 40-Hour Week, this is another great song, and I really love it. The song is a salute to the America's blue-collar workers, and I will say it's amazing. The lyrics are absolutely great. And the end of the song includes a few bars from America the Beautiful, as a matter of fact. And I really love that as well. It became the band's 17th number one song. Of course, the tune was written by Dave Loggins, Don Schlitz, and Lisa Silver. Again, great song. Number 3 is Dixieland Delight. Released as the first single from The Closer You Get, this song is definitely pretty good. While I mostly hear the 3-minute 57-second single, and I really prefer to try to hear more of the good sounds of the album version, which was 5 minutes and 23 seconds. Of course, the song's title refers to the girlfriend of the singer. Later in the song, well, Ronnie Rogers, who wrote the song, conjures up images of various forest animals, white-tailed buck deer, red-tailed hawk, etc., and how they bring peace to them before returning to how the main character plans to become intimate with his girlfriend during their weekend outing. Of course, the song picks up the tempo somewhat with a fill bridge before a reprisal of the refrain. Definitely a great song you can't go wrong with. This actually got released 4 days after I turned 3 years old. Very impressive, huh? Number 2 is Why Lady Why. Released as the fourth and final single from My Homes in Alabama. Now, this was one of the few earlier songs I heard of the band, and it was the band's second number one. There was a shorter single Ed, which was 3 minutes and 9 seconds, but they rarely would play that. Now, the single version is included on the For the Record album, but I just don't feel comfortable with that. I prefer the original album version, which is on the Greatest Hits album as well. Anyway, the song was written by Rick Scott and Alabama's bassist Tay Gentry. Yeah, I will say this is a very good power ballad, and I just think it's great. There's not much to say, but I do love it. Number 1 is Mountain Music. Released as the first single from the album of the same name in 1982, there will be 2 different versions of it. A 3-minute, 39-second single Ed, which I've heard for most of the years until I got to revisit the album version, which gets played on one classic country station, which was 4 minutes and 8 seconds. But anyway, I really like this song. The song was written by Randy Owen alone. It's a song melding the southern rock and bluegrass genres. It has variously been described by country music writers as a modern country classic. Yeah, I will admit, it's really good. Of course, it's one of the only Alabama songs where solo vocals can prominently be heard from band members Tay Gentry, their bassist, and Jeff Cook in the song's third verse, where lead singer Owen trades off lead vocals with his bandmates. Now, actually, that same bridge would later be featured on Brad Paisley's big hit, Old Alabama. Anyway, I have lots of fond memories of mountain music, and I think it's wonderful. I love it. Okay, that's going to do it. Now then, what's your favorite song from this list? Are you an Alabama fan? Tell me in the comment section below. If you like this video, click the like button below, subscribe to my channel, and be a part of the Big D Nation. Join me next time when I bring to you the second half of this ranking, where I rank my favorite Alabama 90s tunes. Thanks for watching, and if you like this, you might want to check out some of these other fun-filled country themed videos. In the upper left hand corner is my ranking of favorite country music bands and duos. Alabama's one of them. Find out where they rank if you haven't seen this. The upper right hand corner is my Garth Brooks songs ranking. Or if you'd like, go to the bottom left hand corner for my recent review of Walk the Line, the Johnny Cash biopic, which includes a ranking of my favorite Johnny Cash songs. And the bottom right hand corner is the button you can click to subscribe. If you like rankings and reviews on movies, TV, music, video games, etc., then I'm your guy. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I'm the Big D saying, see ya!